We are live. Welcome everyone to the first of hopefully a few more of these beta studio updates. This is a stream to go over the Hygraph Studio, which we released as an open beta about 2 months ago. We've received a lot of feedback. We've done a lot of work, some of which we've announced, some of which we haven't, and some of which is going live this week. I'm joined by Alexey, who is our senior product manager, and he's going to walk us through a lot of that, right?
Yep, exactly. Hello, Bryan.
Perfect. But before we dive into that, I've got a few pieces of housekeeping to go over. First and foremost is going to be that today is not the only stream that we have this week. I do want to make sure that you are aware that tomorrow we will be going live with Tim Benix, our DevRel lead, and Colby Fayok from the Cloudinary team. Now, if you don't know Tim has incredibly strong opinions on media. And as it turns out, Cloudinary also has incredibly strong opinions on media, images, videos, etc. And so he and Colby is the director of developer experience over at Cloudinary. They're going to be talking about integrating Cloudinary with Hygraph. But I can guarantee you there will be at least one spicy take, and it will be a stream that you won't want to miss. So be sure to check that out. It's tomorrow at this time as well, at 4 p.m. CET, 10 a.m. Eastern time here in the States. So definitely check that out. And before we dive into updates, I'm aware that some people might not have used the studio yet. Hygraph Studio is the new way of using your Hygraph content for your editors, for your developers, for whomever's using it. Here is where I'm at with one of our old, what we're calling classic now, interfaces. So this is just one of my random projects. I've got a whole bunch of projects. You'll see that in a second. It's a byproduct of being a DevRel. You can access today everything that we're talking about. You can access the studio. You can give it a try. You can try it out by going to any of your projects and coming down here to your account area. You can see down here, I've got Bryan Robinson. That's me, head of DevRel here at Hygraph. I can click that, and I get a switch to studio with a little beta flag here. I can click that. It's going to open it up in a new tab for me because you can actually run these side by side. because there might be some things that you need to still do in Classic. We'll actually talk about that more in a little bit. Here's some information about all the new things in the studio, but this actually opens you directly into the studio interface. If you are anything like me, which I actually am aware that very few people are like me in the Hygraph user base, and you have multiple projects that you're working on, when you come to your dashboard screen for Hygraph in general, you will see all of your projects, right? I have perhaps too many, and I know that I'm one of the few that does, but you can see up here we have a launch projects drop down as well. So if you ever want to be able to only open in Studio, you can select Studio or Classic, and then when you click on these, it will automatically open in the Studio experience or in the Classic experience. So jump in here, and if you have feedback, you can actually come into our community. Let me put up a ticker here real fast, and you can give us feedback directly in a channel we have open for the Studio Beta. So come to slack.hygraph.com, jump in the Studio Beta feedback channel, all down there at the bottom of the screen. And actually, some of the things that we're talking about today and some of the things that we have implemented since the start of the beta come directly from feedback from our community in Slack. So Alexey, I'm going to kind of change over to you now so that we can talk about what we've implemented and what we've been working on these past couple months. I'm going to pull your screen up for you and we'll get going.
All right. Thank you, Bryan. So yeah, on our side, as Bryan said, we did release the studio 2 months ago. And obviously, initially, we jumped right into polishing things. So the first update that we published on March 28th was mostly like polishing and updates and things based on community feedback, among all other things. One thing to note is the JSON input field. It was not very responsive at the start because it was doing too many things. It was both for our editors, but it was also the backbone of our application, of our app framework implementation. So it tried to do all the things at the same time, and it was not always too fast. We were able to optimize it pretty quickly, so we were able to publish it right in the first string of updates. We also had some comment menu was pulling up too many things that should not be accessible, and just as you see, a big chunk of those are community related. We have even links to specific comments in our studio channel that were actually reporting this. And one other big part is something we did even reconsider based on community feedback, or something that was the last straw for our reconsideration, is how we didn't allow users to click outside the field settings first to close it, because we had so many issues with people losing data, clicking outside, and we thought that it will be just safer for everyone if we don't do this. But yeah, everyone just used to this behavior, so we just needed to implement the exit prompts. Otherwise, it was just so unnatural for people.
I think it's important to note this is the laziness of humanity. I do this all the time. In fact, I ran across it very early on in the beta testing as well. And it's like, I don't want to go all the way up. It's so far away to click. Let me click anywhere outside. Yeah. I'll take the danger for the lack of mouse movement. Thank you.
Yeah, at least we are at least showing you the prompt. If you change something and you didn't save, we make sure you don't lose the data, because we still want to avoid it. But yeah, we listen to people, both internal and external. Then there came the longer period. It was, I think, 3 weeks between the updates, and the second one was much bigger set of changes. And it's mostly either polishing things or things going towards the feature parity, because we still wanted to first implement things that were in the Classic, so they are in the Studio as well. But among those, whenever we can, we sneak in some improvements. So this time we did add the field search in the field side sheet, so you don't need to actually find your enumeration or remote field. You can actually just pull them into use the search, and it will filter the field list for you. pretty handy, especially when you have a lot of apps installed.
I use the schema builder all the time, and yet I still forget where they are in that long list. We have so many different data types that, yeah, a little search functionality goes a long way.
Yeah, I just love to use keyboard whenever I can. So yeah,
Yep.
I've been an active user of this feature ever since. And also something we also did based on the feedback from community, and we actually prioritize based on feedback from community, is adding more options to the entry picker, which is also used for assets. So you can filter and sort the assets when you're trying to pick them. So that is something that was pushed much higher because of community feedback among all. And here we still, you see, there are a lot of improvements, a lot of fixes, a lot of updates. But even then, we started to actually focus more on bigger pieces of features and bigger features themselves, because we got Studio in a good state, in pretty good state, and it's, as you will see now for this week's updates, and hopefully for the updates in the near future, they will be much shorter, and there will be much less fixes because there's much less things to fix and much less things to polish, but there will be some new bigger features that are coming. So for this week, what we do is, first we have finally fixed the issue that was there since the Classic, but it was reported in the Studio, so we also added here, is for some projects, in some specific circumstances, it would corrupt your field order, and when you try to reorder them, they would just jump back and forth seemingly randomly. Now it is fixed. It is fixed for all projects in Classic and in Studio. It is, as far as we are aware, in all the cases where it would show up, it is fixed now. So thanks for reporting it in Studio. Also, this was something that was haunting us for a long time, and finally one of our engineers was able to find the actual root cause of this one. So it was a very interesting one to work. We have added the REST remote fields already. GraphQL remote fields are coming very shortly, either this week or next week, probably next week. And because for GraphQL, like, the field itself is much more complex, because it also uses the GraphQL Explorer. So you don't actually write the query, you can build the query right in the field. But REST remote fields you can already use. We have brought back the side navigation resizing. So it was resizable in Classic. It was not resizable at the launch of Hygraph Studio. Now it is. Also was reported in community.
I'm going to take us a quick half step back, Alexey. Sorry. So I just want to make this clear real fast, because I should have brought it up in my intro, right? The beta, and part of the reason we're talking about REST remote fields, right? That's not new functionality, right? That's functionality that was in the Studio, or was in Classic. As we wanted to get user feedback as soon as possible, so we launched the Studio in beta without all of the functionality that is in the Classic. So some of these things we're bringing feature parity in for things that people need. So the remote sources, you could add remote sources. In fact, you could actually now in Studio, if you didn't know, you can add OAuth remote sources as well, a couple of them, right? But you couldn't add the fields. So now we had the fields for REST, and very shortly for GraphQL. That will bring us actually all the way to feature parity for our remote sources. So that's coming, as well as some other things that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But we're bringing some things in because we know that people need them as well.
Yeah, and for remote fields, it is the last piece that is needed for feature parity in the schema building. So yeah, we are getting much closer to the full feature parity in some of the areas. And we will talk about a few more things shortly. Then we had some issues with creating relations within components. It would change cardinality. It would create in incorrect cardinality. As you know, we have one-way and two-way relations, and obviously two-way relations from the components don't really work, because you cannot have component is not an independent entity, but we were still converting things into two-way relations. Now it is working as intended. all good. You can use relations inside components in Studio as well. We had some things where with spacing and truncation just across the Studio, we are getting better at just showing you things in the most appropriate way and truncating things instead of doing the line breaks where it could break UI. So we have found, I think, most of the places where this can happen. So now it's pretty consistent all across the Studio, which feels very good. Also, part of consistency in UI, we also listen to community feedback in showing the date formats. This was started, I think, a month ago, and now it's consistent all across the Studio. We are showing year now everywhere by default, because we heard the feedback that without the year, sometimes it's very hard to tell which specific entry you want. And we're also showing the dates in the same way whenever we can in different places across the app.
Well, that's one of those things that kind of goes to show also, like when we think about certain types of editor experience, we think about like, oh, we want it to be as short as possible so they can quickly see it. Oh, but a lot of our customers really need to know the year, which was, I'd say, a little surprising, at least to me. But that's the great thing about, again, getting feedback. And I'm gonna promo this again real fast, because getting feedback directly from y'all in the community, super important. So join the Slack channel, slack.hygraph.com. Give us beta feedback. We love it. We're going to implement it.
Absolutely. And some of the feedback was not even about the issues, but just about some new use cases that we haven't thought about, or something that was like on our radar, but we didn't think that people would actually use Hygraph in that way. So we have quite a few things in our backlog that are coming from this feedback that is not related to issues or to bugs, but just some generally good product feedback that helps us move Hygraph in the right direction. So I appreciate everyone who take time to reach out and comment. So then we had one more thing also really reported in our community feedback is sometimes because of our caching configuration, whenever you were creating new objects, they were not immediately seen in the Studio. And Bryan, I think you were the one who was helping some people troubleshoot this, but we identified it, we solved it. Now caching works well, now everything's good, it should be perfect. And the next one is something that we pushed to live today. It is now open to me and to a few others, but it's also going to be open for everyone tomorrow morning. And it is webhooks. And now we have re-implemented webhooks in Hygraph Studio. So yes, once again, it is not new functionality, but we tried to improve the experience while we were re-implementing this.
You know, there's a fast casual chain of restaurants in the US right now. I'm not going to name names, but they just released a whole new menu where they're calling everything enhanced. All of the old sandwiches are enhanced in some way. So the webhooks is not a new feature. It's an enhanced feature inside of Studio, right? It's enhanced.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And one of the things we identified on early stages of prototyping is, we have the logs. Oops, I'm sorry. For some reason, But with the feature flags, caching wasn't fully solved with feature flags, as you see. But when the main reason you usually go to your webhook logs is if something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, you probably want to see what's wrong and then update the webhook. And before that, you needed to go all the way back to webhook list and then go update. So now we have actually just go to edit the webhook straight from the logs. Just saves you 2 or 3 clicks, nothing major, but at least it streamlines the flow and streamlines how you think about it.
When you have things going wrong, you want to debug as fast as possible. So like saving 2 clicks when you're debugging, that's like saving 8 clicks when you're not debugging. It's great.
Yeah. And another thing is, it was there in Classic as well, but this was kind of hidden and not described anywhere. But we have the retrigger as whenever you have the webhook, or whenever you have the issued webhook and you know that the issue was on the other side, you don't have to go and do something that triggered that webhook as well. You can just go and say, yeah, please run this again for me, and then it will just run again, and it will do everything it's needed. It will create the new entry in the logs. So even if you are trying to debug something, you'll be able to see your progression. So one entry can actually cause a few log records, and like for each trigger, so you don't lose any data, you don't override logs, anything. It just triggers it again.
So if I kept clicking the retrigger on this same screen, it's just going to keep firing those in the log, right?
Yeah. So
amazing.
Here you see, and yeah, one more, and it's coming.
Again, all about efficiency, right? Like I might know that it failed without going and checking to see it failed. I just need to retrigger it again. Don't make me click.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's just you can just sit here and update it and see what's going on and debug everything you need.
Amazing.
So yeah, pretty comfortable to use. And another piece that is coming this or early next week is roles and permissions, and it is, as you see, it is now on our dev, but we did re-implement it from the ground up as everything else in Studio. We tried to improve the flow as much as we could. So now most of the things are the same as before. So you can create the new roles, you can update them. The content permissions and management permissions, they work exactly the same way that they work in access configuration. You can assign members here, or you can assign, actually, for some reason, it doesn't assign here. But yeah, for here, we can do this, and yeah, the user is here, so we can assign and unassign the users. Then in the users themselves, yeah, we see that it's all there. So roles and permissions and team members, both of those are not available right now in the studio. They are coming shortly.
We're in internal testing and soon to be in external testing, right?
Yes, it's very, very close. And yeah, coming back to our updates, things that are also very close and things that took a lot of time and we were working very hard on are, first is content entry duplication. I think that was one of the first questions in our studio feedback channel, is where is content entry duplication? And yeah, the answer was, we're working on it. It's coming. It's coming very soon. The team is very close, and we will be able to show it to you, I think, very, very, very soon. The second is localization. And it's such a huge functionality in Hygraph, because it spans all across the content entry, APIs, configuration, and there is a lot that's going on under the hood there. So the team took time to re-implement it in the proper way, in the proper flow. So it's actually also something that is gonna be coming in Studio very shortly.
Localization is one of those things where we know just how important it is, but if we'd waited on localization, we'd be launching Studio now, and we wouldn't have gotten all this amazing feedback already. So like, that's why we launched without it, so that we could actually take your feedback into consideration.
Yeah, this was probably the biggest discussion, is can we launch Studio without localization? And in the end, we decided that we can, and we launched it. But it was already the biggest missing piece of our initial Studio release, and we really, really wanted to have it out as soon as possible. So yeah, we also wanted to have it out in the best shape possible, because it's so important for so many of our customers. And yeah, now it's coming. And as I mentioned before, GraphQL remote field with our own new remote field explorer that we'll probably use in some other places across the app as a teaser. But pretty good, very, very good UI, very nice, very usable thing. Some updates from the classic implementation. So yeah, keep an eye on it.
And just so everyone who wasn't here at the beginning knows, all these changes that Alexey went through before we started talking about the upcoming ones, they're all already available, right? You can actually do that, and I'll share my screen real fast, by going to your classic implementation, because it is an opt-in beta currently, so you do have to go and find it. and coming down into your account area, and it's your account area for your project. So you as an editor or you as a developer can be in Studio, and the rest of your team doesn't have to be. So it is opt-in for individuals. So if you also want your team in there, make sure they know about it. But you click this switch to Studio button and you come into the new experience as well, complete with everything that we talked about today, including, because I want to show it, we talked about the ability to search, right? So I can never remember where relations are. There's my reference, because I actually forget that they're called references and not relations. But there it is. I can do a quick search and it's there. So you can enjoy these pieces today. And then while you're enjoying these pieces, if you run across something that is not how you want it, or a bug, or you say, hey, you gave us this new cool stuff, what about this additional feature? You should come join our community at slack.hygraph.com and let us know in the Studio Beta feedback channel. I'll put that down there. These are where a lot of these pieces have been sourced from, right? We have been paying attention to all the feedback we've gotten in that Slack channel, and we've been implementing fixes around just about all of it, which is really great. We want more of it. We want to know not just what's working and what's not working in the current implementation, but also where you want this to go. Because Alexey, correct me if I'm wrong on this. One of the big reasons that we wanted to do this re-architecture was so that we could increase the velocity at which we release features in the future. So that means things that you want, we can move faster on, which means we're more likely to do things that you might want. So let us know as you're working on the Studio stuff, as you're working in this new implementation, what else you might want to see. And we'll start working towards that stuff too, potentially. It's great.
Yeah, you're right that velocity was a big thing, and we are already seeing the results of it. We are releasing things much faster than we did ever before. And also, for any of you who posted some feedback and you see it wasn't acted upon yet, rest assured that it is still there. We have all the records. We do monitor things. We could go through all the things that are in our backlog, and we will keep working on it. So
if we went into the backlog, we'd be here another like hour and a half, because there's a lot. There's a lot that we want to do. There's a lot of things that we've seen that you want, and we're gonna start actioning on them. It's gonna be great. I don't know, Alexey, anything else that you've got from Update World? 30 minutes is about what I was thinking for this, and we're just about there.
Yeah, no, I think that generally want to say that we are very close to feature parity in the most important and in most used areas of Hygraph. So if anyone wanted to switch and start using Studio as a default and not just looking there, I think we are pretty close to letting you do this, especially if you have some smaller project, or it's just something that's not as big and doesn't use all the Hygraph features. You probably will be able to start using the Studio as a default in coming weeks or months.
Perfect. All right. So before I let everyone go here, I am going to promo again. Tomorrow, it's a 2 live stream week this week. Tim Benix from the Hygraph team is going to be talking to Colby Fayok on the Cloudinary team. So if you are interested in media, if you're interested in images, videos, I don't know, PDFs, I guess. That's lame media, but it's media nonetheless. They're going to have some great opinions, some great conversation, as well as how you can integrate all the amazing stuff in Cloudinary with all the amazing stuff in Hygraph and get all that together in a very meaningful way. So tune in tomorrow at the same time. It's going to be 4 p.m. CEST, 10 a.m. Eastern time here in the US, and learn a little bit about media, learn a little bit about integrating that with Hygraph, and probably see some good hot takes in there too, some spice from Tim and from Colby. So tune in then. And until then, Alexey, thank you so much for demoing things for us today and talking through kind of our process. I think we're probably going to do this again in a couple or a few weeks, and let folks know what's going on. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you in the community and in various spaces online. Thanks so much.
See you.